Morning, everybody. This is Coach Brandon Sanders. Welcome back to another episode of In the Sand Podcast. I'm excited as always to have you back. Before we get into this interview, we ask that you please like, please share, and please subscribe so we can continue to share this great content with everyone to see, learn, and experience from some upcoming and legendary coaches. So again, I'm excited to have just another episode, just to be here and just talk more basketball with you. I am super excited about the coach that we have on. Coach is a lot younger than I am, man. He makes me feel a little bit old, man, but I am super excited to have Coach on. Coach Jones, man, he's a young guy who really has it together. And before we started the episode, I told him I wish I would have kind of did some of the things that he's doing right now, because again, he has college aspirations, and he's had a little opportunity to be on the college sideline. He's going to talk about that as we get into the interview, but he's doing all the necessary things to get him where he needs to be. And I'm glad he's on, because I think that's going to help a lot of young ladies and young guys who are listening to the story. And so anytime you can find a guy like Coach, who is humble, who is young and hungry, who doesn't have a issue with asking questions and learning, again, being a humble servant, I mean, going over and beyond his call of duty, and you're going to hear that in the interview, and just being an inspiration for young people, and then doing it all while still striving to get his educational degree. And again, I told you, man, coaches, he's still in college right now, man, and that speaks a whole lot about what he's got going on. And I want to tell you so much more, but it wouldn't do it justice if I said it. So again, Coach, welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate you having me on. I'm thankful for the opportunity. You let an unproven young guy come on. It speaks a lot about you. So I'm very appreciative to be on.
Man, I told someone when I wanted to do this podcast, I told my wife, and we were talking about it, and I said I want to give everybody an opportunity, because who am I to say, well, I think he should be on, or nah, he's not that good, or she should be on, because we
Right.
all start somewhere, and then you never know where a person can go. So if I miss a guy like you coaching, you coaching in the NBA, or you got a college job, and I'm like, man, I could have had this guy on my podcast. And so, yeah, I missed that
Right.
opportunity, man. I can get 1 million some views. So we never know where this is going to go. So, Coach, man, I
Right.
like the humble spirit, man. And that tells a lot, again, about you. Coach, we're going to jump into it, because I'm excited just to hear about your story. Obviously, I know a little bit about it. But again, I do my homework on each guest, but I always leave a little room of surprise for me. So, Coach,
Right.
talk to us about, when did you know that you wanted to be a coach? And in that process, you're going to share your journey to where you are right now, even being at this young age.
Right. So I really didn't know until like the middle of my freshman year, after I'd been a manager for a couple months, but I still wasn't sure. I
Mhm.
kind of decided to do that in the first place just to still be around the game.
Yeah.
I, you know, I wasn't 100% on coaching, but just being around those people and the fun I had. And I started getting into like watching X's and O's videos and the motivational stuff and anything like that. And I just really enjoyed it. And I learned like being a manager, you're kind of serving without expecting much back
Yeah.
in terms of I'm not getting a check, I'm not getting anything. And I learned I still really enjoyed it. Like I never turned down a workout, I never turned down coming early, late. And I was like, man, I really like doing this.
Hmm.
And then of course I'm a huge NBA college fan. So I've always watched it, played, been around it.
Yeah.
And it hit me. I was like, why am I sitting here worrying about like I know what I want to do. So since then I haven't second guessed it, man. It's been in it.
Man, Coach, that's amazing, Coach. Because I think a lot of us, we do we do spend a lot of time trying to figure out what we want to do. And deep down, you have that, as I always say, you have that touch where you just know deep down in your heart,
Right.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm gonna rewind just a little bit more before we get back to it, because again, people say he's a manager. Like, where is he a manager at, or where has he been? And I'm glad you left that part out, because that's going to lead up to a great story. Because again, people might still be questioning, why is this guy on here? And we're going to let them know. So, Coach, tell us about your journey. To where you got to being a manager, and then what you're doing right now. So just give us that
All
journey.
right.
As they always say, take us down memory lane.
Well, I've been playing since I can remember.
Mhm.
I mean, I've just always enjoyed it. I went to high school at Silver Bay Academy, a little small school in Bay Springs. Probably never heard of it. We got to play for the first state championship in boys they've ever played in. So I had a pretty decent high school career, and then it come down. I was done, and I realized like I'm not good enough to play on this next level to make a big enough impact. And the Jones manager, I knew some people up there, and somebody had offered it to me, brought it up, and I was like, I'm gonna go try it out. And next thing I know, I was a manager with the women's team at Jones.
Mhm.
I didn't know what to expect, but man, it turned out great. And then now done my 2 years there, and I'm a volunteer assistant at Petal High School for the upcoming season.
Man, Coach, that is a amazing start. And for you to be able to just take your talents and say, hey, I'm gonna go over here to Jones, and we all know about Jones Community College, and we're gonna get into that in just a second. To you to give up your time, I think that's so important, Coach. And that's the way I started. It was a little bit different. It wasn't in college, but it was in college. I take it back. It was my third year in college. I was at Jackson State University, and I was like you. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I first got out of high school. And our stories are similar, Coach, because I'm like, I wanted to go to the NBA. I wanted to be on that sideline. I wanted to be able to put that hat on. And at the time, David Stern obviously was the commissioner. So I used to imagine putting that hat on and just shaking his hand. And then
Hmm.
reality hit, man. I was like, I'm a long way from this NBA draft. The closest I'm gonna get is probably NBA Live 2K. So
Right.
I said, I got to do something. So my parents, and I owe my parents a lot. And I talked about this a little bit on my previous, maybe 3, 4, 5 episodes ago, but I didn't get into detail a lot. And I came and I told my parents that I wanted to be a coach. And I'm not sure if they even knew what that really meant. And what I meant by that is they were thinking financially, because obviously, my uncle, he coached in Vicksburg. He was a football coach, and there's not a lot of family members who are in our line who are coaches. So they knew teaching was involved and coaching was involved. So it always encouraged me, always gave me an inspiring word and encouragement. And they said, just try it out. So, they gave me $300. And to me, I'm like, man, $300, that's a lot of money for me to do something. I don't even know if I'm gonna like it or not, Coach. And to be honest, Coach, I didn't even know what to really do. I was calling around and just like, where do I get jerseys? Like, where do I get shorts? I didn't know anything about it. And at the time, it was a place. There's a company, I'm sorry, Judge Little. And I know a lot of our older coaches kind of know what that is, but as we know, BSN kind of went in and kind of bought them out. And I went in there, ordered the jerseys. We were the Jackson Orangemen. At that time, I was in love with Syracuse, man. And of course, I love Jackson. That's my hometown. So I merged the two together. And I just volunteered, Coach. And as I said in the previous episode, Coach, we got murdered, man. Like, I got some guys that they wasn't that talented of guys that people thought they were not. But these were quality guys who were like role players on the high school team. And so I got them together and we just formed a team, and I had fun. And that really drove me to want to be a coach. My brother
Right.
played for that team, and he was balling. So it was good to stick, because my brother's like one of my best friends. And so it was good to be able to talk basketball with him and kind of be his coach, but still be his brother. So it was a cool little thing. And so
Right.
the following year, I went back to my high school, Murrell High School, and I started to volunteer. And then, coach, and even with this, when I got my first year teaching at Murrah High School, I had to volunteer again because they already had the position filled. So volunteer is important. So for those who are listening, if you don't get an opportunity to necessarily get a paid position at first, please volunteer because that's going to open up so many doors. So, coach, that says a lot about you with being a servant leader. Coach, I do know about Silver Bay Springs. We used to go to Simpson Academy summer league in the summertime, and that's kind of when I first saw Silver Bay, and that's on the girls side. I coached girls at one time early in my career, and every time we went to Bay Springs, well, I've always saw that sign Silver Bay. So that's a good place to be, man. I know the principal there now. He's still the principal, Coach Kirk Crane. No, not Coach. No, it's Coach
Uh,
Crane. What's his name? Is it
Robert Crane,
Robert Crane? That's it, man. Robert Crane. I think Kurt Crane is his. They
his
related.
brother
Yes, there it
or
is.
something. Right.
See, some young minds helping me out. But yeah, man, Robert Crane, he's a good guy. Of course, he was a principal at Puckett and he was at Silver Bay. So know some people down in that area. So coach, let's talk about this. And this was intriguing to me. Jones Community College did some amazing things because of obviously a special coach. And we all know Coach Bilderback. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You did. Yeah.
All right. And
Builder back.
yeah, say it again.
Builder back.
Bilderback. Yeah, I say it correctly, but if I'm gonna be on this podcast, I don't want to mess up Coach Bilderback's name because she is a legend in the
Right.
state of Mississippi, and obviously we know she just got a great promotion. So, Coach, what I want you to do is I want you to tell us what makes her so special. Like, why is she known for her X's and O's? But why also she knows to be a great person? Because anybody who tells you about Coach Missy, man, they know that she's gonna love her kids, she's gonna love her staff, and she's gonna work extremely hard. So, Coach, just tell us what makes her special.
Yeah, if I had to say one word, it would be her personality. Like she's an X's and O's genius. She puts time into it. Like, but just as a person, she's probably the nicest person I've ever met. Every player, manager, assistant coach, like she took care of.
Mm,
If no matter what's going on, like she was there. And then on top of just her personality, she's a great coach, great recruiter,
yeah.
and just because of her personality, she can build that trust and those relationships. So we get in those moments like everybody's locked into her, everybody listens to her, like what she says, we do because we know she loves us. She wants what the best for everybody, and it's easier to listen and trust somebody when y'all have built that relationship.
Mm. Coach, everything you said, man, you can see that in the sideline. You can just see that with some of the players she has coached. And obviously, she's at ULM now, excited about it. And again, college coaches at that level have been reaching out to her, I know, for a long, long time. And in the coaching game, you always want to take the right position and it got to be the right time. So we knew it was coming eventually, but we always excited for Coach Bilderback to just go out and represent us and do it the right way. One of my former students, Coach Tatiana Lofton, she played for Coach Bilderback and she's going to ULM with her as well. So it's exciting just to see some of my former students on this college level doing amazing things. Coach, talk to us some more things about just the JUCO basketball and some of the things that you learned, some of the things you experienced, and some things that the average fan or the average coach may not know about just JUCO basketball.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I got a lot of respect for all the players in JUCO because it's a grind. And you hear the saying a lot like, "Oh, if I don't get this, I'm gonna go JUCO,"
Yeah.
or if this doesn't happen, I'm just gonna go JUCO. To me, there's no such thing as just going JUCO. Like that's just disrespectful. Like those girls, those guys on both sides, like they can play. They put in the time. The coaches, same thing. They put in the time. There's a bunch of great coaches in the league. And I mean, I learned a lot JUCO, especially just you gotta produce with what you got. Like we don't have, the greatest this, the greatest that, but they produced with what we had and it was fun.
So, Coach, in your role, talk to us about some of the responsibilities that you had, and just some of the leadership opportunities that Coach Bilderbeck may have, allowed you to experience or just view or see, which you're gonna just hold on to, and I know, and take it to wherever you go. So, share with us some of those experiences.
Right. There was a bunch of stuff to do, but it was fun. I had all my manager responsibilities, the waters, the towels, all that kind of stuff, getting the court ready and all that. And but also during practice, being a practice player, and I'd get to run some drills every now and then. I got to, uh just talk with them when they were on the sidelines while like scrimmaging was going on and all the coaches are coaching X's and O's. I kind of got to be over there and I could help them out, talk to them. But the one thing I remember is game days.
Yeah.
Uh, it was I'm talking about I got out of class at 11 a.m. It was straight to the gym for uh our walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I remember our first game this year. We had our walkthrough, got done. I mopped the court, swept it, got it ready. Let the goals down, got the coolers filled. I had to go to the grocery store and pick some stuff up. It's JUCO life. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. I think we tipped at 5:30. So about 3:30, I got back to the gym. We had some players coming out getting shots, and we had our pregame, had the game. And I remember we was in the third quarter, and like I just felt sick. Like I felt terrible. I didn't know what was wrong. And I was like, it hit me. I was like, man, I'm hungry. I was like, dog, I haven't eaten since 7 a.m. before class. Like I haven't had any time to eat. So like after that, every other game day, I remember I had to like find 30 minutes to go get some food. Like it was packed out those days, but they were fun.
Coach, that's funny, man. Like, and trust me, that doesn't really change either on the high school
Mhm.
level or in the college level, because there are so many things to do. And I'm glad that you shared that, because I share this with my students sometimes. School and the things that we try to prepare you for is for a reason, because you can use those same skills, you can use those same preparation skills and tactics to help you be successful. Because when you get in, as they always say, the real world, or I say the work world, or you get into your career or your passion, you're gonna have to rely on some of those things. And so, like you said, you working so hard, coach, and you in it, like you forget to eat. And people say, how can you forget to eat? Trust me, when you're doing a lot, it just flies by. But because you're passionate about it, your adrenaline is pumping, that don't really matter. But when you finally settle in, it hits you, man. And you and I kind of talked about this, just the small school and the JUCO college life. Like they're all, obviously they're different, no comparison on that aspect. But when you have to do so much because of a smaller staff, a smaller area, it takes a lot. And coach, as a head coach, I've had to go run to the store. And we talked about this earlier. I had to run to the store and get pizza, or I had to run to the store and make sure we got ice, or I have to do the floor, because a lot of times at Pisgah High School, Justin, my brother, we had to do so many different things. And that's kind of what me and you kind of laughed about and shared earlier before we did the podcast. And coach, I'm trying to think, man, what's probably the unusual thing we have done before a game? I'm trying to sit here and think about it, because you not eating just reminded me of something, because we were so busy. Here's something that stands out to me. Um, we played a game. Obviously, I went to work that day. We had a game, might have had a JV game that day. We played a JV game, had the girls varsity, had the boys varsity. So after the game, Justin and I, we would always stay after, because we had to help with the concession stand. So we had to shut the concession stand down, had to restock for that. Then we would go and we would clean the bleachers, so our custodians would have to do so much on the following Monday. Now, coach, while we're doing all of this, I have like 2 or 3 players there in the gym, and I'm letting them be kids. So I'm letting them play basketball. It's like 9:30. They playing pickup basketball. So as a coach, I'm happy they just playing. But coach, we get done about 9:45. I asked the kids, I say, is your ride coming? They say, yeah, coach, they're gonna be here in a minute. So Justin and I, we go in the locker, we go into our coach's office, we snack on some chips or something like that, talk a little bit about what we're gonna do in practice the next day. And no lie, because we both fall asleep. So I'm like, man, it's 9:45. We out in the country, we sleep. So, coach, we wake up. It's probably 11:30, 11:45. No lie, coach. The ball is out there still bouncing. So I look at Justin. I said, Coach, there's no way them boys are still out there playing. So I go out there and they still balling. Guy got his shirt off. They're in a full sweat, coach. And I said, I said, Justin, these boys don't have no ride home.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, I wish y'all would have told me that before I slept half my, half
Right.
my day away up here. Because at the time, my wife, she's my fiance at that time, she's calling me, blowing me up, like, where are you? And I'm like, baby, we sleep, we on our way. And so I say, man, come on, man. They're like, nah, coach, our ride coming. I'm like, dog, it's 11:45. Your ride is not coming.
Mm-mm.
Like, nah, coach, we'll walk home. And that's when I learned country dark is dark, man. Like and I like, you are not about to walk home in this. And so, because we took those kids home and that was a full day. And those are some of the things that I don't believe some of the casual fans may not know. So, that's why I always say before we just give all these coaches a hard time, it's so much more to go into. Because think of what you said. Coach Jones, he had to go to the grocery store. He's in college. Coach, what classes were you taking? What classes are you taking? Let's kind of give people a little bit more perspective about what you had to do that day.
Let's see. Last semester, I had a biology class, a traditional grammar class, a algebra class, a public speech class, and one more, sociology.
And so, coach, you got that sound like a full load, coach, and you still doing that, man. Coach, that's amazing. Coach, tell everybody what your major is.
I'm an English education major. I'm at Southern Miss, class of 2025.
Man, that's what it is, man. That's amazing. And that's good. So now Coach Jones making us look good because they all say all coaches, they don't do anything but teach PE. I got my man Coach Hicks teaching
Right.
English and changing lives. So
Trying to change the narrative.
there it is, Coach, man.
We're not dumb.
Man, USM, man, it's a great program, man. I'm gonna tell you something, man. I love Coach Ladner, man. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to meet Coach Jay Ladner on the men's side, but man, he started off as a high school coach, man, and a lot of times before he got to USM, I would reach out to him and he would just give me practice plan schedules, and the practice plan schedule that I run today is similar to what he does at USM, and he's been doing all of his programs. So got a lot of love for USM and what they're doing. And I'm glad he got an extension because, again, they
Right.
give my guy a hard time. I'm like, you got to look at his track record because, again, Jay Ladner was also at Jones as well. And if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, was it Jones? Yeah, it is. It was
It
Jones.
was.
And I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, won that national championship.
He
So
did.
I said, Jay Ladner's doing his thing. So I said, man, y'all leave my guy Jay alone, man. He going to get it together.
And it worked out for him.
It really did though, man. And deep down, man, he a solid guy, man. He loves basketball and he takes pride in basketball. And you know it because you're from the state. People love football here in Mississippi, and I do too. But he is a big advocate of making basketball on the same level as football. Like he
Right.
wants the same respect, the same love. And so you gotta love Coach Jay Ladner, man. So shout out to you, Coach Ladner, if you're watching. I mean, hopefully we can get you on the podcast, man. All right, so coach, now obviously you had a great opportunity at Jones. Now talk to us about Petal, man. Like how did that work out? I know you gave us some insight of how it worked out at Jones. Some people kind of suggested it. You kind of went in, talked to some individuals. So tell us now about how did this journey at Petal start? Or is going to start, because I know you haven't started yet, but you're going to move into that position. Again, volunteering as well while you're still in school. So talk to us about how that process kind of got set up.
Right. So I'd heard of Coach Jennings when he was at Taylorsville High School. I
Yep,
live in Taylorsville, so I'd heard of him, and I was in my last year at Jones, and I was talking to Griffin Cheatham. He just got the graduate assistant job at South Alabama,
he did,
and
man.
he had worked for Coach Jennings for a couple years. I was talking to him at a football game, and I was like, next year I don't know if I want to go and keep being a manager somewhere or try the high school side out. Like I was just trying to weigh my options. And he was like, "Well, look, if you want to get into the high school, I can ask Jennings. I'm sure he'd love to have you and all." So I got his number and I sent him a text, and I was just kind of like, "Hey." if a spot opens up or anything, I would be interested. And he was like, "Man, I'd love to have you." And so it got me excited. And after that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm locked in at Petal."
Man, that's cool, man. I didn't even know you was from Taylorsville, man. Taylorsville is a great athletic program, man. They do
Hmm.
so many things so well. And I like Taylorsville, man. They athletically on the girls and the boys side. I noticed that they're 1A now. I noticed, I don't know, is the community getting smaller or is the population? I know they're at 1A school now.
I don't really know why. I don't know what's happened, but they did drop to 1A. It's different.
Yeah, it is, man. And I love one of the greatest battles now that's been happening because Bay Springs dropped a 1A, and then obviously Taylorsville, man, that's an amazing football game. When those two teams battle at that level, it's amazing to be able to see that.
That's a really good 1A matchup.
Man, it
Doesn't
really
get much
is.
better than that.
No, it can't be, man. You talking about South football at its finest on a Friday night. You can't ask for anything. That's a great, and both coaches do a good job. Obviously they have changed through the years, but the program is just instilled, and those communities are amazing. Coach, talk a little bit about Coach Jennings. When I knew Coach Jennings, he was at Stringer High School, and he did some things good at Stringer High School. But just talk us a little bit more about Coach Jennings. Some things that obviously I know that you're still getting to know him, obviously as well. But I know y'all had some conversations. I know y'all already had trials, so you kind of been around each other, kind of got a feel about what are y'all doing for the summer. But tell us what makes Coach Jennings a great coach to be around, work with, and somebody who can give you a positive view of what coaching looks like.
Right. So first thing I noticed is his desire to improve, to win. I'd heard all kinds of great things from a bunch of different people around about him,
Yeah.
and I remember one of our first little conversations over the phone. I asked him, I was like, "Is there any videos? Like, what are we trying to do next year?" And I'm gonna try to learn more on that. And he sent me a link, and I remember clicking on it, and the video was like 3.5 hours long. I was like, okay, this guy means business. But no, I enjoyed it. I like what was in it. I watched it. I think it took me a couple days, but I got it watched. And but yeah, no, I was like, no, this guy, he's gonna work hard. And then it tryouts and all the way he talks, the way he goes about it. Um, he's just it's gonna be fun. I know it is.
Man, coach, speaking of trials, my junior high coach, Coach Lewis, he told me that the hardest thing about being a coach, well, one of the hardest things was having to not select a kid or cut a kid. And I was thinking, man, that can't be the toughest thing. But when I had to, I guess, obviously make my first cut, and what I tried to do, I want to look a kid in his eyes. I want to be able to tell them. And I know that's old school now, and we all kind of getting away from it. A lot of us, we just post it on social media, which I think is a good thing because sometimes it can cause conflict, and sometimes you don't want to embarrass a kid. But I can remember, of course, when we were trying out, obviously the coach just say, "Y'all 15 on the team. The rest of y'all, we'll see you next year." And come back next year. They give you the same thing. Well, Michael Jordan got cut in high school, so y'all come on back. And so
Right.
we like, well, Michael Jordan got cut, we good. Then you find out he really didn't get cut from a high school team. He just didn't make the varsity team. So
Yeah.
my little dreams, I like, shoot, if Michael Jordan got cut, I guess I'll be all right. But those were some tough days just being cut. And I was one of those kids that got cut. But as a coach, it is a challenge. Coach, did you notice anything about how you're going to do that process or how you're going to handle telling the kid this year may not be for you? Like, how you envision yourself handling that?
Yeah. Luckily, I don't think I'll have to have any of the conversations. I think they got that handled. It been, but yeah, I remember looking at the sheet, and he was very adamant. I think it was 18. He was like, we're taking 18. We're not taking 19. We're not taking 18 and a half. Like, it's 18 of them, and that's it. I'm looking at the sheet. I got like 55 names on here. So I'm like, man, like, but no, we statted a bunch of different stuff. We watched them, and it was a little easier for me because it was my first day. so I
Yeah.
don't really know them,
Yeah.
which made it harder in terms of I don't know, their work ethic, their drive, all this.
Mhm.
But just based off what I saw, I just wrote what I saw, and I didn't have to. I didn't feel as bad because I didn't really know much about them. It was like my first day, but I can definitely see it was still tough though. Like even I'm like I've never seen this dude in my life, but I don't want to do this.
Man, coach, you get some good experience. What I try to do is when trials, I let the kids know up front, and I know it could be repetitive. I know it could be the same old story, and we all said everybody can't make the team. And then I just go into some details of what I'm looking for. And obviously, what I'm looking for, which really kind of just takes a lot of kids out, or can you do the basics? Can you dribble, pass, shoot, and catch? And I got that from Coach Wayne Brent. Used to coach at Callaway, Jackson State, Ole Miss. But those things are basics. And then we kind of we always implement some conditioning. And I got that from my middle school coach because when I was at Chastain Middle School in Jackson, Mississippi, trial started with a mile run. Now that caught me off guard because I'm 13, 14 years of age. And I'm expecting we're gonna go in there, get a good stretch in, do some dribbling drills. He said, no, you go out to the track. And coach, at Chastain, we probably had about 100 kids trying out. And coach, if you just driving by, man, you'd have thought it was like a track meet going on and people were cheering because coach, as soon as he blew that whistle, you had to get that mile done as fast as you can. As soon as you got finished with the mile, you had to sprint to the gym, and we had to do pull-ups on the outside. And coach, I ain't gonna lie, man, I was not used to that, man, because I went to a private school prior, and this was I was making adjustments to playing public school basketball. And man, coach, I really contemplated that, man. I think I'm gonna do something else because it was just different, man. I was like, a tryouts to start with a mile run and then had to go straight into doing physical exercise and then the trial started. But he wanted to see because he had so many kids in the gym, he wanted to see who's really going to fight through adversity. So conditioning is something that I kind of always implement into it. And for those who are basketball just junkies like myself, the Miami Heat, they implement that into their pre-draft workout. The Boston Celtics are big on their conditioning, the Phoenix Suns as well. And I know a lot of other NBA teams do it, but there are some pre-draft workouts that some guys don't want to be a part of because some teams have an extremely difficult conditioning level. So, conditioning test that they go through. So that's important in that manner, coach.
Yeah,
Um,
I got another how you talking about going from private to public. Mine's a little different.
yeah.
So I was in private the whole time, but I remember my senior year, I'd been doing some individual workouts at East Central. And I show up one day and they're getting ready for practice. Usually there's nobody in the gym. So
Uh-huh.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch them practice and then get my little individual out after. I think they started stretching stuff. I was over on the side just stretching. And I remember Coach Lockhart, he looked over and he was like hop in.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and I remember they started the practice running and all this. And about an hour in, I was like, this is different. Like I'm dead. We were playing. We did one. We did a just like a one-on-one drill,
Yeah.
and they got the ball. I was guarding him. I didn't know it was full court, and like that was after all the running. So I was like, I don't know if I got this in me.
Man, that's funny, man. Coach Lockhart, man. Shout out to Coach Lockhart. Man, yeah, he demands a lot as well. And it's funny you said that, Coach. Again, we're similar on this as well. When I graduated from Murrah High School, again, I didn't have a lot of offers. I worked out for 3 schools. I worked out for Belhaven, Grambling, and Jackson State. So I went to the Belhaven trials, man. Thank God I did good. So the coach says, come back. So I'm excited, coach. I'm like, man, I didn't think I was, had opportunity to play college. So I show up that morning. Again, I'm a high school kid. I don't know anything about individual workouts. So I get to the gym. I'm excited. I'm thinking workouts, little closeout drill here, just little layups here, little shooting here. And so their best player, he's working out at the same time. So again, I'm still, I don't know what's going on. So he said, we open up a mic and drill. So I said, okay, I did a mic and drill. I'm doing a mic and drill. And then that's when the intensity picks up. So the coach gets super intense. The ball can't go below your certain height. And then he said, do reverse miking. I was like, reverse miking? I ain't never heard of reverse miking. So, man, we doing reverse miking. You got to get to 10. And so, coach, no lie. By the time I get finished reverse miking, I'm kind of through already because my shoulders burning a little bit. I'm kind of
Yeah.
exhausted. And then the workout started. And, coach, when I got finished that 45-minute workout, I said, man, I don't think college basketball for me. And he said, Coach, he said, Brandon, come back the next day. And so I'm thinking, like, man. So I come back the next day. The next day, I do pretty good. So it's the best player. He's there again. We shout out to anybody who's listening. Best players show up every day. The best players work hard. So he was there again, and he brought two more guys with him. So then it became four guys, individual workouts, and then we played 2-on-2. So I did that all week. And coach, no lie, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. And the coach, he says, we're gonna pick you up. You can come on. You'll be a walk on. You don't have a scholar. You won't have a scholarship, but your opportunity to be on the team. So, coach, I ain't gonna say the weak way out, but I said, well, my parents, they won't be able to necessarily pay that tuition at Belhaven. So I said, Coach, I'm gonna just try my chances at Jackson State. Now, I was partially telling the truth, but I was tired of doing those workout, Coach. So individual workouts are serious, man. So, hey, Coach, I'm glad we sharing this because it may help somebody out. Because I thought I was the only one, so I ain't feeling too bad. I'm looking at my notes, man. Again, shout out to my man Griffin Cheetah, man. He reached out to me as well. Of course, when he was at Jones, and he got promoted. And again, still a good guy, man. Just very humble. And again, he was a hard worker. And so I know Coach Miller gonna miss him at Jones, but he's gonna do some great things in the next spot. So I'm glad that you did shout him out as well, and hopefully we get him on the podcast as well. All right, Coach. Let's talk a little bit about. I kind of want to change this question up a little bit. Let me come to this question, then I can maybe come back to this question. Now,
Right.
Jones, we talked about branding. Again, I'm a big branding guy. And again, I don't know how I fell in love with branding. And I think because an overall goal of mine, and I know they say you shouldn't tell people your dreams all the time, but I would. And I'm planning, and preferably I would like to be a part of a sports team, ownership team, somewhere in there, general manager, GM, should hopefully become the owner. But I know that branding is important. Like you have to be able to sell your brand. And that conversation is coming up a lot, especially with the John Morant story, again, with the firearm. And some people ask, well, why is the NBA in such an uproar about it because he's not affecting anybody, not hurting anybody, etc. But it's a brand. The NBA is a global brand, and those who are part of this special entity, it affects the brand. So, Coach, while you were at Jones, how did Coach Bilderback really promote the brand of Jones so it was a recognizable organization? I know, I mean, a recognizable team. Obviously, the championships, the wins, the national tournaments did it for itself. But what were some things that you thought really put a staple in, like the Jones is really that school?
Yeah, that's another part of being JUCO. A lot of the brand and stuff is on you. You don't have, teams and all this. But we had a good sports information director, and he ran the Twitter, and he did a good job on the Twitter and stuff with that kind of stuff. There was an Instagram account. I don't know if we ever figured out who even was running it, but they did a good job of making photoshops and edits and all that kind of stuff. That's something I want to learn how to do, is the Photoshop and the game day graphics and all that kind of stuff. That's another way to brand. And I remember we had a big rivalry game coming up, and I remember going around the dorms. I had pieces of paper telling people to putting it on their doors to show up to the game. So it was a bunch of small stuff, JUCO stuff like that. Um, but if I mean we that game we packed it out, so whatever it did, it worked. But she's big on that, and she does a good job of not just the program, but just players too, just on Twitter shouting them out, sending talking about them and all that kind of stuff. She does a really good job promoting players and the program.
And coach, that's something that you have to do, and that's something that changed. And I know that is sort of new, and it's a challenge for some of our more seasoned coaches because Twitter, social media, YouTube, huddle. I know at college I was learning from my college coaches. Is it synergy? Is that what?
Synergy.
Yeah, that's the new wave. And that's where you really get your kids out there now. And so, as for those who are in high school, middle school, D1, D2, you really got to promote that. And so, it's important that you get your social media page and you have an active account. And that's something that I'll add to the things that you have to do sometimes as a small coach. And you said it too, coach, as a JUCO coach, you got to be the social media person. And so I remember, and that's the one thing else I had to add to all the million other things that I had to do, because you have to be able to get these kids out there, and kids love seeing that. Kids love to see themselves. They love their highlights. They love to do so many different things when it comes to that. So, coach, that's very good. And branding, I'm glad you said that. Branding your kids is important. And I'm gonna say this too. A lot of my high school kids, and I know it's kind of growing now, but I had to get on my high school kids, coach, about having a Twitter page. They're like, man, who's on Twitter, coach? And I said, man, it's not Twitter, obviously, yeah, it's not what you like, but Twitter has now become different for different people. Like some people get on there for their news, some people get on there just to chat, some people get on there for videos. But you see a lot of athletes getting on there because a lot of your college coaches are there. A lot of your communication can happen there. So I tell them, if you're trying to go to the next level, we got to start branding you so college coaches can see you, because they're not necessarily coming out to the gyms as much as they used to.
Right.
Obviously, we know our JUCOs, we got to get out because we got to recruit. Majority of our players are going to be Mississippi men or young ladies. So we got to get out to the gyms, but you got to be able to do that. And you can look at even some of the celebrities, like look at, I'll use LeBron James, or you look at Beyonce, or you look at any of Kim Kardashian. If you look at their social media following, it's it's crazy. But that's how social media drives. And so that's the positive part that I like about social media, um, is with that. And that's why I ask people just to like and subscribe what we're doing, again, because it's not about me. I think we're producing great content. And I think like we got great coaches on that makes the Mississippi look good and basketball look good. But also too, when you got guys like Coach Jones on here, it's a young guy who may be a freshman in college or going to college and say, hey, I saw this guy on his podcast and he jumped into the college game early. He's already doing things on a high school level. That's the inspiration. And that's just us moving the game forward. So again, keep supporting In the Sand podcast, because we got a lot of great things going on. And again, it's not about us. It's not about me individually, excuse me. When I say it's not about us, it's just not about Coach Jones coming on here and want to look good, or Coach Sanders coming on here want to look good. It's about how can we make everything just a little bit better for everybody.
Right.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about basketball. Obviously, Coach, again, you're young in the game. And so a lot of these questions I'm going to ask, I'm going to pick your brain just to see what do you think about tactic wise or scheme wise that you probably that you want to see your program run when it comes to offense and when it comes to defense. So again, I just kind of want you to just explore a little bit, use your imagination, but also lean on some of the opportunities that you had. And so my first one would be this, Coach. Talk to me about how would you scout, because I talked to Coach, what coach was that? I talked to Coach Fletcher from Hines Community College on the women's side, and he gave me a lot of insight about how he scouts. I mean, he looks at lineups. He looks at how many shots you shoot in the first quarter, second quarter, etc. He looks at, are you shooting that same 3-point shot late in the game? He looking at your late game situations. So, Coach, as a head coach, when you get that opportunity, and I know you will, what's going to be your approach to when it comes to scouting your opponents?
So that's a good question. I'll say this: there's a lot there. You can scout a million things. And
Yep.
I think, the basic, you want to know what they're mainly running,
Yep.
what defense they're in, what they go to when they got this lineup in versus when they got this lineup in, what's their pace of play and all this.
Mm.
But I'll say this, I think at the JUCO and college level with the synergy and all,
Yep.
you have so much access to
Mm.
everything. You can look up how many times they've ran this baseline out of bounds, how many
Mm.
times they've ran this one, sideline, anything, and you can get caught up kind of over scouting it because when you start giving too much information, I feel like it's a little harder for the players to get.
Yep.
So say I was on the college level with the synergy, it's going to be hard not to just grab every play and go over it and teach it to them. But I think you want to find a basis of what they're doing. Like, do they run more dribble drive or do they run more ball screen motions or what is their what do they do the most?
Mm.
Like, not where the screen's going to be on this play, but do they use more pick and rolls or do they use more off balls, stuff like that. So, and then defensively, uh, obviously look at who they got. Are they big in the paint? Do they have rim protection? Do they not? Can they guard the ball? They play man zone. Positioning very important. And you look at the small things like when they're guarding in the corner, are they under that bottom foot or above it? Can you get the back door? Or do you want to go dribble handoff? Just reads like that. Um, that's the fun part of coaching, scouting and watching film and all that. I mean, that's one of the reasons we do it. I love that part of it.
Man, coach, I hear you, man. You using some great terminology, man. I like that we looking at that up foot, the upward foot or the low foot. So, coach, I know you know what you got going on, man. Like, I'm always paying attention to the details, man. So I like that. What type of offensive action do you like, coach?
So if I was college and I could be recruiting, I like the fast pace, the dribble drive, the getting downhill, paint touches. Um, I don't want to say I'm an analytic guy, and the mid range is not dead, but on offense, I would prefer paint touches and threes. And it depends who you have on the team and what kind of scores you got. If you got like one go to guy, I don't care, score from anywhere. But depending on what you have, I like the dribble drive. Um, I like a lot of stuff out of horns. I like watching the Warriors and how they run off their off balls and their staggers and twirls. But I like the Warriors and how they read those actions, like Draymond or Looney or even some of the guards. Like when they're setting those staggers or something, when they see the slip, they just go like that read and react kind of offense. You run a zoom action and the first guy twirls it, then the second guy comes and you just stuff like that. The read and react. I don't. I mean, I like set plays, but I don't like set plays with one option. I like if there's a play, if this fails, maybe you can get this back cut, or if this fails, at least you got a post ISO, just stuff like that. I like multiple options, and I like. Hopefully, my teams are good enough. You can give them some freedom.
Coach, man, you speaking my language, man. We almost similar, man. It's almost scary. Man, I like their read and react offense, man. Coach,
Right.
man, I fell in love with that coach, and we've been working on it this spring because with the read and react, it doesn't matter how good Coach Jones is as a scouter, because he's gonna be a great scout. It's hard to scout a read and react because we're reacting to whatever's happening.
Right.
And I love the offense because it teaches your kids how to play basketball and it makes your job so much easier. And now you're creating kids or you're trying to create kids that have a high level of IQ because they're thinking the whole time. They're thinking. And I'm like you, because I love a good set play. Again, we are alike like this with horns. I love a horn set. But I love to be able to see my kids just get out and play basketball. It's just a beautiful thing, and it's good to be able to see them move to where they're supposed to be. Supposed to be. Everybody's just making plays, and I love that.
Yeah,
Coach,
they start learning the spacing and the reacting. That's gonna make the fast break better. That's gonna make their defense better because they know what the like. So I mean, I really like that. Just makes them a smarter player in general. So stuff like that, I enjoy those kind of offenses.
Yep. And I'm glad you because our fast break that we run, uh, I try to get into that secondary. It's a little tough on high school level, man. I was watching, the North Carolina's secondary break. I'm trying to implement that, but we got something simple, and our fast break flows right into our read and react. So everything that we do, it just flows off of it, and it does make it much easier with that. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, coach, and I know it might be a little bit hard to kind of picture this, but give me a horn set. Give me a horn set that you like, and then I'm gonna give you a horn set that I like. So I give myself a little bit more pressure. Now, even though I'm thinking of one now, so I got a little bit more time than you. But give me a horn set, coach.
Yeah, I remember one. I was looking at it a couple days ago. I know the new colleges, they like to go to these zoom actions, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just a basic. He entered it to the guy on the right elbow,
Okay.
and they went into a zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was a double zoom. So he went, and then he went straight to the other side and went handoff, and then that opposite post guy set the screen, and it was like a double zoom action. But after the first big man had gotten out of the way, when that guy went downhill, he was kind of set in like I wouldn't say a hammer or something, but the guy who did the handoff, if the point guard couldn't get downhill on the second double zoom, he could go to that corner right after the handoff, and I saw that.
Man, I like that because when you use that Zoom and you implement, and like I said, once you run it a lot of times and people are going to expect the Zoom action, a lot of times you get that action like Draymond Green does when he come off that DHO because everybody expecting it. And it's crazy how defensive teams just run away and lead a basket and you go zoom and you just get a layup. So, coach, I like that. I'm gonna go just a little bit simple out of that. I like a horns isolation play. And I want to say Duke, I think Coach K ran this when he was at Duke, especially the latter years. You put your best player on either horn or either elbow. And so let's say if I throw it in on the left, catch it at the elbow, my best player gonna turn around. He's gonna face up. As soon as he catches it, the guy on the opposite elbow just sprints across, almost creating a brush screen, almost, but he just sprints to the opposite corner. And so then now, and I say our left side because I said my best player is right-handed. Now he turns around and face, and he has that space to be able to drive to a
Right.
strong hand and get a layup. It's just a simple thing because, and I try to get my kids. A lot of my kids they say ISO, ISO, and just move, move, move. And you telling the whole gym that you about to run an ISO. But I said let's create an isolation because you see it all the time in the NBA without having to say ISO. So that's one
Yeah.
action that I'm definitely going to implement this year is just putting my best player, and you said it, coach, just operating in space and see can they handle my guy 15, 18 feet from the basket.
Yeah, I saw another one today. It was just like that. It was a horns, but the instead of setting that brush screen under, he just Iversoned over the top. And
Yep.
they entered it there, and he had the whole side of the court to play with.
I like the Iverson cut too. Man, that's good, coach. You know your stuff, man. And it's crazy how that Iverson cut just became that name of Iverson. Because when I was younger, we used to see Iverson come across that top all the time. And not knowing when I was younger, I didn't realize that the NBA ran motions of plays because when we were in school, you would see a guy come down, a coach, a yellow player, you hold a finger up and run that play. But I learned throughout time the NBA, a lot of times they call their offensive sets while they're on defense. And a lot of times they script what they're going to do. And a lot of times it's quick hand signals. So the whole time until I became a coach and really started understanding it, I was like, the NBA, they do run plays. But I said, nah, the NBA don't
Yeah.
run plays. They just throw the ball to Michael Jordan. He turn around, give him that, and then he just shoots it. But I didn't realize, man, he was in a triangle offense and he had motion and he had cuts. So I love the game of basketball.
Yeah, that's how we'd be in the dorms this year watching the game, or watching it with your family, and they get an ISO play like that, but it was a set, and they're all like, oh, he's ISO, and they don't run any plays and all this, and I'm sitting there like I'm like that was awesome. Like I
Yeah,
saw how they set that up. Let me add that down. And but it's vice versa for them. They hate watching the games with me. I
yeah.
remember we were watching Miami and the Bucks play when the I can't remember if it was tied or down one, and they run that little lob for Jimmy, and I
Jimmy
I could
Butler.
just see how it was. And I was like, he's curling right around. He's curling. And I was yelling it. And they were like, they don't like watching with me because I'm always calling out, 77 horns, all this. I like doing that. And so I get mad watching it with them. They get mad watching it with me just because we see the game differently. But we both enjoy it and it's funny.
It is, Coach Justin and I. When we watch a game, man, we stopping, rewind. Like we ain't getting like it. Like by the time we stop and rewind, the game might be live in the second quarter because if we see a set or we see a play, we breaking it down and we're
Mhm.
discussing it. And Coach, that play that Miami ran, I didn't know what they were running at first because I didn't know what they were gonna get out of that shot. But obviously, like you said, when I saw Jimmy come around and Drew Holiday was following behind him, I'm thinking it's no way that the pass is gonna be that perfect and Jimmy catch it like he did and make that shot. And
Right.
I'm like, I'm jumping, I'm getting loud in my living room. People probably looking at me like this man is crazy. But I'm more excited about the play call.
The execution.
Yeah, man. And I'm like, that's crazy though. So it's a beautiful game, man. Like you said, and I love basketball and I talk it all the time, man. And hopefully, man, it'll make me famous one day. Um, Here's another one, Coach, that I want to be able to ask you. Talk about defense. Like, this is always an interesting topic, and the thing that I kind of want to create is that if you're a zone coach, a man coach, a press coach, or you as I say, a special defense type of coach, and I mean boxing one, triangle two, that doesn't make you a bad person. I think sometimes when coaches run something that's not the most popular thing, it kind of gets frowned upon. So, coach, what kind of defensive coach are you going to be, and what do you like to do, or what would you like to do on
Yeah.
defense?
Yeah. If I could prefer, I'm more of a man-to-man
Yeah,
guy than a zone. If I were to have it'd be like a boxing one or a triangle and two. There's times to go to zone. I think everybody needs to have one. There's always a time where you can use it, I think. But if I could prefer, and like if I was on the college level and I could recruit my people, I want an aggressive man-to-man defense. I want to be the one that's causing the tempo. I don't want them to be able to. They can play fast if they want to. They can play slow if they want to. I want to dictate the tempo of the game. So man-to-man, gap help, all in them. Switching screens. If you can go 1 through 4, maybe even 1 through 5, I like that. Like I think just building an athletic team who can guard the ball, that would be like my ideal defense.
that is that's good, and that's good. And the reason I want to say this, and I'm thinking about what I want to say, um, yes, I think when you can play man to man and you can switch 1 through 5 or 1 through 4, I think that makes your defense dangerous, and especially in the NBA. And I think that's why Golden State did good for so long because when they went small, they were able to still switch those screens and still stay, close enough or contain as much as they could with the guards. They struggled this year with being maybe too small with the Lakers. But again, and you will see this too as you become a coach, head coach, and obviously you are coaching, excuse me. Chemistry. I think the chemistry and the
Yeah,
incident early in the year really helped mess Golden State up. And I don't know if
yeah,
the average fan, and that's what I try to see too. Sometimes coaches are under so much uh, pressure because there's so many things happening behind the scenes. And you and I talked about this today. Like I had to have a discussion with some people about some things that happened in our first year because it was so many things happening in my first year at my school that we were trying to get together that it affected the play on the court. And so that's why I say give coaches a time because a lot of issues that are happening, and if something's just not clicking right, if something may not just be going right, it could be other things that they're trying to clean up, in the program. Because when you think about it, Coach, Golden State played horrible on the road, and for them to have that kind of championship culture, to have a great coach in Steve Kerr and his supporting staff, something had not to be clicking. We're
right.
kind of seeing some of those things, but everybody has to be on board. All right, but coach, talk to me about this. Now, I heard some college some college coach maybe a couple years ago kind of talk about this philosophy on defense, and maybe you all seen this year when you were at Jones. Obviously, there's a shot clock, and this guy said we're gonna play. We play tough defense. Obviously, man to man, probably until we get to like 12 seconds left, maybe 8 seconds left in the shot clock, and then they switch the zone. Did you see anything like that this year, or know somebody that does that, or do it in reverse? Maybe start off in zone and then jump to man.
Yeah, I don't think I saw any like that. That'd take a bunch of chemistry, like we were talking about. You'd have to talk a lot on that. But I do think it could be effective. Clearly, if you could run it right, it would definitely throw some people off. No, I don't think we saw anything like that. We saw some, zone presses back into man, but yeah, I wouldn't say we saw any. They start the possession in man and then they switch it to zone.
Okay. And like you said, man, and you said it earlier, it's kind of what your philosophy and what you have, and maybe that they see something late, maybe they see something in their district or their conference where this could be a weak point for certain teams. Coach, let me get. I want to pick your brain on this. With you being a younger guy, I kind of want to just see your perspective on this. And that's one thing I do like about coaching in high school and even teaching in high school, because it helps me stay around young people and kind of helps me still stay sharp and still keep me in tune with the trends that are happening in just the world in general, but also with basketball. Recently, we've had three NBA coaches that, well, maybe no, it's four. I'm sorry, four NBA coaches who have like great resumes. They have great records. Some of them had championships, obviously. Um, but what do you think, or what's your perspective when you see the Phoenix Suns, you see the Philadelphia 76ers, you see the Milwaukee Bucks, you see the Toronto Raptors get rid of their head coach? What's your thought about that? Because again, you are an upcoming coach in this game, and as you're going to learn that your position as a head coach is not always guaranteed, it's based on the performance of other people, which my high school coach broke that down to me, because my first year volunteering with Coach Fritt at Murrah High School, again, I learned so much about Coach Fritt. And I know some of my former players or former students or my Murrah alumni players may not agree with me on this. I didn't really agree with my high school coach on a lot of different things. I didn't at all. I thought they were outdated sometimes. I thought they were just not
Archaic.
yeah, I just didn't agree with it. And probably a lot of it because it affected my playing time. I think my other friends as well. But I was wise enough. Well, God gave me the wisdom to never bash my coach, because he was the one who gave me an opportunity to volunteer. And when I coached with him that year, I learned so much from him, and I understood why he did what he did, and it made a big difference. But we played in a game, and it was his last game as a coach. And he said, I'm gonna tell you this, Brandon. He said the hardest thing about this job. Now, my middle school coach told me that the hardest part about the job was cutting kids or not choosing kids for the team. My high school coach told me one of the hardest things about being a coach is not being always in control of your own career. Because on any given night, this 18-year-old, or if you going to high school, say you got a freshman team, a 14-year-old, or even if you're in junior high, the 13-year-old can control if you're going to be re-signed or rehired the next year. So, coach, just kind of give me your perspective about just the whole coaching and the pressure of it, and just job security, just from your point of view.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. We could be 50 years old and we're relying on an 18-year-old if we're going to be in the same place, we're going to live in the same house next year. It's crazy to think about it. And obviously, I'm a coach. Coaching is important, but people are kind of they're shocked sometimes when I tell them I think coaching's a little overrated.
Mm.
Like I think it matters, but at the same time, like especially in the NBA, you know, talking about Monty Williams being fired, I'm just mind blown at that. I I do think I don't say they regret the Kevin Durant trade because if Chris Paul was healthy and all, I know he wasn't
Yeah.
but there was some people saying, hey, they should have just kept Mikal and Cam instead of going, with a great starting five and no bench. Maybe they should have kept, four, and then you have a couple guys on the bench. And
Yeah.
because of those questions, I wonder if the management was like, hey, maybe to take some of this maybe blame off us, we'll get rid of Monty. But I don't know who they're going to get out there that's going to be better. I'll say that I would have said that if all these other teams aren't firing good coaches as well. Um, Nick Nurse in Toronto, I think theirs was kind of mutual because of some things, but Nick Nurse is a basketball genius. He's going to be a head coach. If he's not, something's wrong. Budenholzer, he's gotten bashed the past couple years for some things, and then they lost to an 8 seed this year. But anywhere he's ever been, I mean, the guy's won. He just won a championship. So I think these coaches getting fired is I can see why for some, but then the Monty Williams and all them, I'm mind blown at that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Coach, you said this, which was good. I'm not sure if the culture is changing, and this part of culture is scaring me. I don't know when these guys, and I don't know if they do it purposely or understand it, but it feels like if somebody on TV who's in the media runs with a narrative, it almost feels like that they're setting that coach up to be fired. And I know that's
Mhm.
probably extreme, but I'm just looking at it because, like, when I go back to Coach Bud with Milwaukee, it was always said he's not making game time adjustments or he's not calling the right plays. And of course, I'm a coach, so I get kind of sensitive with that part because I'm trying to defend all my coaches because I know how
Right.
hard it is. But he ended up winning he wins that championship that year. And I'm like you, I'm not going to blame anybody. But I do say this, and an old coach told me, he said, Coach, as long as you know you did the best you could do, you prepared yourself well, you worked hard, you have to live with it. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But I'm going to tell you this, Coach, and it's not to blame kids, it's not to blame anybody. But, Coach, at the end of the day, you got to give your fair blame to everybody because he said, Coach, you never missed a free throw in that game. You never turned that ball over. You didn't run the wrong assignment. So just you, of course, being a leader, you take responsibility for that. But it's not all on you. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, you're right. So I agree with you. It wasn't all on Monty Williams. I'm a Coach Monty guy. It was so much going on. Chemistry, injuries. Aiden, we don't know if him and Monty ever really made that work.
Right.
A lot going on. Chris Paul, man, I feel so bad for Chris Paul, man. The injury, limited bench. It became tough. And so then you put all that weight for Kevin Durant and
Hmm.
Devin Booker to perform like that every single night. So I just want to get your perspective with that because again, to me, that's alarming to me when you can get rid of four head coaches. Um, and to be honest,
Yeah.
all four of those guys might end up having a job with another team.
And see, that's what I was about to say. What makes it even just weirder is the NBA. They do a lot of recycling. The head coaches. These four guys Monty could be with the Bucks, and then Budenholzer could be with the Suns. But then another story about the coaches here, Doc Rivers,
Yep.
and I understand he's had playoff failures a lot, but at the end of the day, they were up 3-2 and they have the MVP and he just didn't play like an MVP. But all I saw was the Sixers blew a 3-2 lead and it's a picture of Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the media earlier, the media they were up 3-2 in the series and the first take wasn't oh, Philly's one win away from the finals. It was, if they blow this, Doc is gone. I'm like, why are y'all doing Doc like this, man? Like, leave that man alone.
I know it.
So
Coach,
yeah, the media they play a role, especially in like the NBA and stuff. They yeah.
Coach, you are right though, and I got a couple of things with that. When, and maybe it's just me being narrow minded, but when is being up 3-2, you only up one game? When is that blowing it? Like I,
Right.
I don't know, because that would be like saying, well, it's the fourth quarter. I'm up by four. I guess I blew a 4-point lead. Like so I'm like 3-2.
Right.
I understand 3-1, or if you were up 3-0, I 3-0, but 3-2 is just
Especially because you're playing the team that was in the finals last year,
yep,
and then the game 6 was at your place. So you lose that game. Now you're playing a game 7 at their place. So I mean, it really like you lost one game and then now you're like, uh-oh, we're the underdogs. So
yeah.
no, it's not blowing it, but that's what the media is going to run with. Another blown lead by Doc Rivers.
Yep. And coach, and I was looking at that too. I'm looking at the statistics, and somebody broke down, and I know you saw it too. Doc River has played in these many game sevens. He lost this game, this game, this game. And I'm thinking, man, like we all have failed and haven't been successful. And I use this a lot. I'm glad, and I'm glad Jerry West was not a part of what we're going through now. But to take Doc Rivers' career and break it down, that's just unfair. But
Mm.
maybe it's the world we living in, Coach. But I wanted to kind of pick your brain with that one. Let me ask you about this one too, just to get your perspective as well. And we talked about it earlier. Um, what do you feel about the Ja Morant issue, man? Because I mean, you're a young guy. Y'all obviously y'all closer in age than I am, and I don't. I'm confused about it. Maybe a lot of guys who can older like myself or even older than me, maybe we're kind of confused, and maybe this is. I know it's not the cool thing. Obviously, no, guns are never good, but it gotta be something that I'm missing or I don't understand. And again, we won't know the story. And I'm not here to bash Jod. I mean, In the Sand podcast is just positivity. Only reason I'm asking the question is because maybe you can say something that may spread a little bit light to help us understand what young people are going through. And then maybe you can say something so another young person won't follow that same step. Because again, I'm not gonna bash Job because those without seeing cast the first song, cast the first
Right.
song. So man, nobody's on here is perfect. He's just a celebrity that has made some bad decisions. But just kind of speak to us about that, Coach.
Yeah. Um, I'll say this. So it's a bad thing. Like I can see why the NBA is wanting to, because like we were talking about their brand earlier.
Yep.
But right, like in this age, like we see it all the time. It's kind of like it's not cool, but at the same time, you just see it a lot. And with that the music that was in the background, like I got the same songs on my playlist. Like we all listen to it,
Yep.
and the lyrics, they talk about stuff like that. So like I don't think he's some killer gun, whatever. But it's just I feel like with just even though it's like a 10, 15 year difference between him and a lot of the people that are talking about it, it's just kind of a different perspective. I can see him just not looking at it as serious as a lot of people do it. Because like I said, I see pictures all the time of guns and just stuff like that, and I mean you don't want it, and I can see why they're coming down on him, and I think he knows, like especially with who he is and everything what he does, like he knows that's a major mistake. You can't do that. But I can see it's kind of like people get addicted to stuff, and there's people say there's gun addiction is real, and so I'm not saying he's addicted to guns, but it's just another thing, money and this and that. It's just kind of like not cool, but I don't know the right word, but like it's stuff that's in those songs and stuff that when you're listening to it and you got it, it just is, I don't know. He's just messing around, but
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Coach. I didn't think about it. I mean, I thought about it, but I didn't think about it. But that's why I asked the question because we can learn from each other. And now that I hear you saying that, and I've seen some instances like that where you see a lot of kids, and I don't even know if parents are even noticing. So I'm glad that you said it. So coaches, let's make sure we kind of keep our eyes out on what our kids are doing. But I have seen, a few instances where kids kind of showing guns. Obviously, they showing a lot of money. The family got the money to the ear, but you see those things. But you said something, man. It's definitely not right, but I think it's a conversation that maybe some of the more seasoned or more mature coaches can maybe talk with our young coaches to kind of help, kind of, I guess, to fill in that space. But I always hear Kevin Garnett say this on his podcast is that the bet is it's not a lot of bets in the
Right.
NBA. And I think, and maybe the NBA has to go back to that, but the game has changed. But I think if you got some older individuals who can kind of help lead, kind of help guide, and kind of help, be there for younger guys. I think that helps a lot because there's a lot of older coaches who have helped me because in my mind I only saw it one way, but when they broke it down to me and I really listened to what they were saying, it made sense. So, Coach, I thank you for sharing that perspective because that makes sense because that's kind of the culture that the kids in this generation or the young adults in this generation. I don't want to say kids. Well, I guess it could be kids, but more of young adults are kind of in that era right now.
Yeah, and I'll add you're talking about the vets. Yeah, I've seen multiple NBA players talk about that. Dame went on a podcast and was talking about how important vets are. And you
Yeah.
look at the Grizzlies team and their vet, I don't think it'd be Steven Adams, I guess, is their main guy. And you see, they have Ja, and then you see Dylan Brooks and his what he, this year. So yeah, I've seen multiple NBA players. I watched DeMar DeRozan last night on a podcast. He said the same thing about having vets. Like you look at a team like the Houston Rockets, they need a vet. Like there's no other way. They need a vet. But also back on the Ja thing, I saw JJ Redick on. I saw a video this morning. I think the NBA they need to talk to Ja, and he doesn't need to do it anymore. But the half a season or season suspension, I don't think that's the answer. He's a 23-year-old. He was in his car. He didn't commit a crime. There's worse stuff that's happened in the NBA that did not get a half a season suspension. Now, if he does it three more times, maybe. But I don't. If they suspend him half a season, and it may be because I like watching him so much, but I won't be too happy.
Man, it's funny you said that. I saw Commissioner Silver's I guess his response to the situation. And when when he finished talking, and my wife, she was on the couch and we were watching it together. I said, baby, I would not be, I didn't want to speak it to existence. I said, how he's communicating, it almost sounds like half a season or a whole season. And I said, baby, they gonna sit Ja that long? And be honest, coach, I don't know, man. I really because you said it, Mr. Adam Silver, he has to make a like he gave you the 8 games, and everybody knows, we live the 8 games. We want to see Ja in the playoffs. Nobody was tripping about that. We was like, man, take your 8 games, learn from it. But now it's kind of like when your parents, they call your parents and the teacher say, such and such is not doing good in school. Okay, I'm gonna let them know. So your parents talk to you, don't do this again. Then you come to school the next week and you embarrass your parents. They're like, okay, I got to show you now because you think
Right.
I'm playing.
Yeah, it's a super tough spot and decision for everybody involved. Like no matter what they do, I mean, I can see the why. But I remember Woj, his first tweet it had the words lengthy suspension in it, and I was like, yeah, let's calm down a minute. Let's talk about it.
Ooh, coach, if they coach, I like you said, man, coach. Even if you go half a season, you know how much money that man's gonna lose. And
Hmm.
if you just break it down, you go half a season. All right, you got to think about you put pressure on Nike, you put pressure on Powerade, then you put pressure on the Grizzlies because now the Grizzlies are somewhat afraid because now are people gonna come to the game? You know, you got to think about concession sales, excuse me. You got to think about merchandise. It's a very tricky situation because, like you said, I don't know how long the contract is that he signed with Nike, but it's kind of hard to produce a guy's signature shoe and he's not even playing because
Right.
we all know, and I love these shoes a lot. We all know EYBL is coming up, and we know the colorways that they produce for all the Nike guys. So you know, Ja Morant he probably was gonna have a smooth Peace Jam shoe, and
Right.
we may not see that. So
I may be wrong, but I don't know if I saw this. It may have been what you just said, like a maybe situation, but I
uh,
did see something about Nike. He just had dropped some new shoes or he's about to, but like after that, I don't think it said that they were done, but like that's in the air. Like any sponsor he has, all that, like it's gonna and if he loses some of that, maybe that will be enough for him to be like, all right, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
But I hopefully it doesn't have to be a half year suspension, but we'll
All
see.
right. Well, as we go into our fast break question, I'm gonna make that a fast break question. How many games is Mr. Adam Silver gonna give Ja Morant? What's your bid? What's your number, man?
I don't want to say this, but if I say lower, I don't want to get my hopes up. But if I had to put my money on it right now, I'll say 41, half the season. I I don't know. He was almost crying when he was talking about it with the interview.
He
Like
was
he was bothered by it. And then Woj said lengthy suspension, like right when it happened. So it kind of scares me. Hopefully we can stick to 2025.
that was my number 25, man. I circled 25 because, like you said, I think about it, he had eight, and I'm thinking 8 times 2 is 16, so they're gonna definitely give him more than 16. So I just went with a quarter. I went well, it's kind of a little bit more than a quarter of the season, but
I'll say this. I'll say this. I'll say they can say 41, but if he doesn't have anything else happen or he gets off on good behavior, it'll be 25. Give him a plea deal.
man, coach, if they, I'm gonna say this, if they give him 41, you and I might as well go up to Memphis, man, and try to work out for the team, dog, because we know we're gonna have a great opportunity because Memphis gonna be struggling. And no, and I'm not throwing shots at Memphis. I'm just trying to make fun of it, man. It's gonna be hard to win basketball games without.
You you'll be the new Ja, I'll be the new Dylan Brooks.
Hey, coach, they sound good to me. But I take it back. I'm a New Orleans Pelicans fan, and Memphis is our rival. So I don't know if my New Orleans Pelicans fans, if it's not many of us, but I don't know if they're gonna like that. But all right, coach, let's get another fast break question. And for those who may be new to the podcast, I know a lot of people are on here to support Coach Jones. Our fast break questions are questions that we ask our coach who's on the podcast for the day, and they're just kind of random basketball questions. Just kind of get to know the coach and show a little bit of his personality, his or her personality. Um, so, Coach, I asked this last week with my guy, Coach Will Banks, and I'm gonna ask you the same question. You get one player to start a franchise with currently in the WNBA, and then I'm gonna also ask you in the NBA as well. So, talk to me about that. You get one franchise player WNBA, one NBA to start your franchise. Coach, who do you got?
Well, right when I think of the question, I got two names for each of them that come to mind.
Mhm.
And they're actually kind of decently similar in terms of both of them and what they do. WNBA, I got Asia Wilson
Yep.
and Sabrina Ionescu.
Yep. New York.
They both bring dog to the table.
They do.
If I had to start my franchise, I'm gonna take Sabrina because she's a point guard. She can control everything. I do watch a good bit of the WNBA, and the Liberty are my team, so maybe a little bias in there. But I think she's unreal. She plays the one, and then now they got Brianna Stewart and Jonquil Jones. So they built a team. So we're gonna see next year. But Asia's just coming off of a final, so we'll see. Hopefully they'll play in the finals. It looks like they might. We'll get a Liberty Aces final, and we'll see if I was right.
Man, that'd be pretty cool, Coach. I like Asia Wilson, man. Smooth, energetic. Her personality just seems so amazing, man. I
Right.
just like that about her. What about the NBA, Coach? Who would you start an NBA franchise with in the NBA?
Right now, the two names I can think is Giannis and Luca.
Yep.
And even though he hadn't played a game, I'll give an honorable mention to Victor Wembanyama. I'm a Blazers fan, and we were so close to getting him. We were so close. But if
Man,
I had to pick one, I'd say the answer is strictly because he's 23 and the other's 27, and I think I would take Luca. Just age. If they were both 23 and Giannis was how he is now, I would take Giannis. But I'm gonna stick with Luca just because he's only 23 years old. Like that's still unreal when you think about it.
he really is, man. And I like to see Luca play. And he plays so smooth, man. He kind of reminds me of an old school guy because of the way he moves, but man, he got that young guy. He got that young guy spirit. I'm gonna
Right.
answer this question too, man. I'm gonna represent for my fans, and I know this not gonna be popular, but man, I'm going with my man Zion, man. He gonna get himself together, man.
I
And
hope so.
I tell people this: if you look at his stats, and they say, well, all he do is dunk. Yeah, he does dunk. But if you just really watch the game, man, he does so many things well that are super natural. Like it's natural. And I'm praying that he can get it together, which he will. Again, you never know what a person's going through. Again, he's super young, trying to figure it out, and everybody has different issues that they deal with. But man, he's almost unstoppable because he's so strong, so fast. He gets off the ground extremely quick. He has so much energy, and man, he almost moves like boom, boom. It's so quick, man. It's so I would love to see him. And then I'm gonna go with this guy. I knew he was a good player. I'm in the NBA. I'm always in the NBA, but I'm watching this series very closely. Man, the Joker is a good dude. Coach, the man shoots threes. The man can pass. He plays hard. He's super competitive. He gets rebounds. He does everything that you could ask for. It's amazing to be able to watch, man. This is my like I said, it's kind of like with Luca. I didn't start watching Luca for real. I watched highlights, but I didn't start watching him until last year. But man, he got it, coach.
I'll add this on both of your players. I think you'll like the Zion take. I agree. People don't realize how good he's been when he's played. If he said he was healthy and he played in the Lakers series tonight, he's a top 15 player in the NBA.
Easily.
He's unreal, and I hope he gets it together. And the Joker is the best player in the NBA right now. He's if you could say if if he was younger, I'd definitely have
Yep.
taken him. I mean, he's unreal right now. He's the best player in the league.
He is, man. And he makes it look so easy. Um, Coach, this is our most popular question on the podcast, and I'm excited for you because man, you the youngest guy on here, youngest person on here to answer this question. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see who is your all-time starting five for the NBA, man. So you represent for all the young guys, all the young women, man. Let's hear your starting five.
All right. Well, at the point guard, I gotta go. I gotta go. Steph.
Yeah,
I think he passed. I think he's the greatest point guard ever. I think you put him on a team like I'm about to build,
yeah,
his spacing would just I don't it would be impossible to guard. I
yeah.
mean, it would be and on defense, he's not the greatest on ball defender and he's small. Off ball, he's a good defender and everybody else on this team will be a good defender. So we can stick him in the corner. He can guard PJ Tucker sitting in the corner. At my two guard, I mean, we all know who it's gonna be. Dylan Brooks. No, no, it's Mike. It's Jordan. I mean, I don't know how it couldn't be. I mean, we know what he does.
Yeah.
At the three, this one's a hot take for me because I don't have this player as high in my all-time list. But
Mm,
in terms of building a starting five, I think he's the perfect player at the three. It's Kevin Durant.
mm.
I don't have him as high because just as a number one option, he hasn't won as much as I would want him to. But he's unreal. We see what he brings to the table. I mean, he's so efficient. He's 7 foot tall. He scores from all three levels. He can block shots. He does it all. He's unreal. At the four, I'm going with my goat, LeBron. I mean, he's 40 years old right now almost. He's been in the league 20 years. Like I was just getting born when he was getting drafted. I was like 5 months old. Now I'm 20, and this man's still in the NBA in the conference finals.
That's amazing.
And at my center position, it's another guy I don't have as high in my center rankings, but because of his athletic ability and all the stories of what he can bring athletically, we got 140 points on the team right now. I don't have to have somebody who can go score. So if you give me Wilt, who is 7'2",
Yeah.
benches 400 pounds, runs a 4.3, if all that stuff is true,
Yeah.
I'll take Wilt. Just athletically, he would be unreal.
And that's a good lineup, man. Like you said, man, Steph, MJ, KD, LeBron, and Wilt Chamberlain. Man, coach, I guess okay, you're 20 years old. Obviously, man, I grew up watching Mike. I think when Mike retired from the NBA, I can say the first time, the second time, I think he hit that shot on the Utah Jazz and crushed their heart again for the second year in a row. I think I might have been 12 or 13 years old. So, coach, we're two different generations. Obviously, I love LeBron as well. I grew up watching MJ, so it's kind of hard for me to say LeBron is better or the GOAT. But at the same time, I'm not going to be an old head and just say, man, LeBron just can't do it. So to be honest, man, I'm in conflict with this, but I want to hear you because I like, again, I like to learn. Why does LeBron James top Jordan as the GOAT for you?
So I'll say this. Um, there's a lot of reasons. Um, just like with his game. I mean, he's bigger, he's stronger. He can shoot it, score from all three levels.
Yeah.
Top five passer of all time. He rebounds, he defends. Greatest shot blocker, chase down blocker of all time. Like he's maybe the smartest player of all time. He's got all these intangibles. But to me, what's so crazy is not the rings and the MVPs. It's the hype he had and the fact that he's lived up to these unreal expectations. Because I'm 20 years old. 2 years ago, if somebody was telling me on ESPN, hey, if this guy's not in the greatest conversation when he's done, he's a bust. I don't know what I would have done. I mean, he was 18 years old on magazines. People were saying he's the future GOAT. Like he has to live up to these expectations. And 20 years later, he's never had any drama off the court. Just a great person. Like he's the perfect person to be the face of the NBA for so long. He's opening up schools around the world. Like he's such a great person. And then, but the when I was always LeBron MJ 1A 1B, but the 3-1 comeback, the block against the 73-9 greatest record of all time. I After that, I've never changed. I've said he's the GOAT since then, and I never will. I mean, coming back 3-1 against the 73-9 team, and then they got Kevin Durant after that. Those are 2 or 3 more years that he wasn't going to win a ring. So then he had those years in Cleveland. He was young. They weren't the most talented. So I mean, when you compare the rings, I know that's a big argument. He's very close. He's a couple situations from happening to having 7 or 8 rings. If KD never goes there, or 2015, Kyrie and Kevin Love got hurt. I think they would have won that one. There's so many things that could have happened, and he still may get number 5 in 3 weeks. Who knows? So I'd say it's a lot of things. Now, with that being said, I got Mike right there, number 2. He's Mike, but all those things add in, and after the 3-1, and he's still doing it to this day. LeBron's my goat.
Man, I like that, man. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to choose one. And I like what you did. And I wish more people would get to that. Like, you didn't bash Michael Jordan to make LeBron your number one. You just said, this is why I like LeBron. And I saw Dame Lillard tweet that today. And I know it's probably, I saw him tweet that. Yeah, he did tweet that today. I know it's going to be later when this is aired. But he said the same thing. He like, man, this man been doing it for 20 years. And you hear some of the ridiculous things that people say about LeBron. And I don't know where that hate came. I do know where it came from. I'm not going to say I don't know where it came from. But a lot of it came from, one of the famous guys out there right now, I feel, Skip Bayless. I think the Miami thing really put a label on him. So I'm hoping that when he retires, people will appreciate him. Because
Right.
some stuff is just different. And I was about to say something else. It'll probably come back to me. Coach, I'm gonna ask you one more question. I'm gonna get you out of here, man. And maybe hopefully what I was remembering, what I was about to say, will come back to me. Cause what's your favorite shoe to hoop in, man? I know you're a young guy, man. So what shoe is your favorite shoe to hoop in? And then I'm gonna throw this one in there. What shoe are you currently hooping in right now?
All right. Well, my favorite shoe ever, I can't remember if they were 2, 3, 4, but it was one of Dame's first shoes.
Yeah,
They were black and white. They were Oreo. I think Dame too. Dame
yeah.
twos. They were like Oreos, black and white, speckled. I wore those for so long, probably, probably 2, 3 years. And the shoe I hoop in now is I never thought I'd wear low tops, but I got some low top Kobe's.
Yeah.
They're blue. I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, that's what I'm hooping in right now. But I know Sabrina is coming out with some shoes and they look good, and I think that's gonna be my next pickup.
Oh, that's cool, man. I might have to look in there too, man. I never got a WNBA shoe before. Well, I
Me
get
either.
a signature shoe from a WNBA young lady. So I might have checked that out, Coach. Man, I don't hoop as much anymore, man. I'm trying to focus on this coaching, but I'm like you, man. What I have been doing, and this is probably crazy. I know some of my friends gonna laugh. When I was growing up, man, I wanted all of the shoes, man. But my parents would not spend any money. My dad did buy me a pair of the Taxis, and man, I love those shoes. But I had it when I was in the 6th grade. But again, I didn't understand the concept of money. Man, I was outside playing football in the Jordans. But
Right.
those are my favorite pair of shoes. But now, Coach, I'm really, and anybody knows me, I like to save money. I'm going on Nike.com whenever they got sales. And I'm going back and kind of getting some of those shoes that I grew up wanting that my parents didn't
Right.
buy. Like the Jason Kidd. I know they're not officially called Jason Kidd, but the Jason Kidd signature shoe. I've been thinking about getting that Scottie Pippen shoe, but I never was a big fan of that. Man, I got the Charles Barkley's, man. But I'm also trying some of the new shoes. I'm like you. I've been trying the low top shoes, the Kevin Durant's when he produces a good shoe. I've been trying that. And something else that I've been doing recently, and I've never been a LeBron James shoe guy. I really haven't. LeBron shoes always seem just super big. But I said,
Right.
hey, man, this guy gonna be one of the best. I'm gonna go out and get him. So I know I got two pair of LeBrons. I don't know. I got two pair of LeBrons now. The 20s, I just ordered a pair of the orange ones. I'm going to see how those. And I went back. I think I got the LeBron maybe 8s when he was with Miami when they had that Miami vibe shoe, the Miami colorway. So I'm like you. I'm kind of trying it out, and I know it may think I'm spending a lot of money. Trust me, wife, I'm not spending a lot of money, Teresa. I'm just getting them when they on sale, man. So I'm using my Apple Card. I'm using Rakuten. I'm trying to find that sale, man. All right, Coach. Coach, this is our conclusion, man. This has been amazing. Again, I'm just excited that just to have you on as we go into our conclusion. For those again who may be new to the podcast, we allow our coach who's on the episode to be able to close the episode out, and they can talk about anything. They may something that may be on their heart, on their mind. We just give them the floor. There's no time limit. And so, coach, at this moment, go ahead and take the last shot.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you once again letting me come on here. A guy who's technically never been a coach for one game, and you still gave me this opportunity. Um, I'm appreciative of Coach Jennings and Petal. I'm excited for that new opportunity, and Coach Bilderback, Coach Pittman, Coach Coop, and Coach Hayden at Jones. I got to shout them out. Like those are some of the best people I've ever met in my life, and I've told them all the time everything I ever accomplished coaching is because of you guys. Like they're awesome. And yeah, I appreciate you letting me come on. Um, Blazers are winning the championship next year. Yeah, probably not. But hopefully Dame will leave and find me a new team. But if he sticks to the grind, I'm gonna stick to the grind.
Man, coach, I'm gonna talk about the Dame. I'm gonna come back to what you said. I really think that Dame is really contemplating about leaving, but you can just tell in some of his conversations that he's having. But I think that Dame has been so adamant about not leaving that I don't know if he is ready to handle the backlash because of that. But I tell people all the time, you can't worry about what people say or think. Dame did all he could.
Yeah,
And I'm not blaming the organization. It's just challenging. I mean, think about it. It's a lot of teams that are still struggling. I mean, I think about the New York Knicks. Obviously, my team, the Pelicans. Shoot, especially what happened with Ja, and we put Memphis Grizzlies on that list. Washington Wizards, Houston Rockets, man. It's so many organizations that are it's just tough to win.
yeah.
So I'm hoping the best for Dame, but like, man, if you're gonna say the Blazers gonna win a championship, man, go ahead and throw them Pelicans in there as well. Um,
Maybe they'll play them so I can head up to New Orleans.
I know it, man. Hey, I might have to, man. We might have to check a game out or something, man. I'm gonna keep that circuit on my calendar, man, and see what we got going on. But Coach Jones, man, I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna just speak favor over your life, man. I'm gonna claim that you're gonna get you a good head coaching job. You're gonna learn a lot at Petal. You're gonna grow into Coach Jennings, and then you're gonna go and graduate. When you're gonna graduate from college, you're gonna get you a good job, Coach, man, and you're gonna set standards. You're gonna set heights, and you're gonna be one of the most influential coaches that has come through Mississippi, man. I'm gonna speak that on your life, man, because just talking to you, listening, and just kind of doing, just having our conversation that we had, and just seeing your mind for it. And the biggest thing that stands out to me, Coach, is just your love for people, man. It's good to be able to live in a world where people don't judge you, but anything else will buy your heart. And so, Coach, that means a lot, man. So we need more people like you in this world, man. So I'm gonna be a big supporter, man, of Coach Jones, man. And I think you're gonna do great things, man. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate you too, man. I thank you for coming out for the show. Again, please like, please share, please subscribe to the In the Same podcast. Continue to support these coaches and what they have going on, my Petal community. Support Coach Jones, man. Give him what he needs. Help him out. Give him an encouraging word. Should, man, help him with some of that homework he got going on, them college classes, man. Some gas money, man. Help him, some lunch, man. Do his thing, man. Support him. I'm gonna challenge Petal. I'm gonna challenge him. I'm gonna challenge the Petal community. It's a great community, great school. I'm a challenge, man. He's gonna be volunteering his time. Again, he didn't tell me to say this, but I've been in a volunteer role, and I worked and didn't get a dime. One year I volunteered, and a couple parents put a couple dollars together, and they supported me. So I'm gonna challenge the Petal community. Support Coach Jones financially, man. He don't need it. He didn't ask me to do it, but bless this young man so he can achieve all his goals. I'm challenging you, Petal. And so, Coach Jones, I want you to do this, man. When they bless you, man, tell me how they bless you so I can brag on the Petal community. I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, Petal. Do the right thing and support Coach, man. He deserves it. If you don't believe me, just go back and listen to his podcast. listen to his great character, his culture that he's trying to build. So again, to the next episode, please be nice to somebody. Please be kind. And we'll see you next time.